Hey everybody, it's Dr. Mac here with our Module 1 wrap-up, and to get us started on Module 2. In Module 1, we're really asking, what is children's literature? And you explored that by examining a few things. First, realizing that literature in itself doesn't need to just be driven by words. A lot of topics in conversation around graphic novels. We also looked at defining classic children's literature and discussing what it means to be a classic piece. And then finally, we read Wynn's piece, looking at other kinds of literacy practices that may not really count as children's literature, but are still essential to the children that we teach in our school. Overall, I think the module went very well. One thing to note, a few of you need to give me a little bit more in your blog posts. Incorporate the readings. You should be citing the information, or at least bringing in outside sources and personal reflections. There should be, you should be drawing conclusions. Basically, make a claim and use evidence from the reading to support that claim. I will be looking for some more in-depth college-level analytical writing as we go into this module. A few other things I would just wanted to point out were just some workflow issues I thought in this first module that we can maybe take care of moving forward. So, looking at how the class went, folks have started to talk in the module channel, going through it. People started posting their blogs. What you might want to do, like for example, Megan here posted a link, so did everybody else, like Wynn and Megan and Victoria. But you're just posting the link. Why don't you give us a little bit of context? Like say, oh, here's my next post. Like just don't post a link and walk away. Try to get some conversation going in terms of our blog posts. I mean, if you scroll up and down, you'll see people are kind of using this like as a filing cabinet just to hand in their assignments and move on. But this is our class. This is where we're going to gather and you need to talk. If you want to see an example of what I'm talking about, look at the conversation that I had with Elizabeth. She brought up Wynn's work. She answered a question that I had asked earlier. And then we had a conversation going where I shared other experts with graphic novels and a book that could be read. So that's the kind of back and forth that I need to see going in the modules moving forward. In the blog feed channel, you're starting to see everybody's pieces come in. So that's a great way to, just figure out something to read and follow up what your students are doing. Over in the comments feature, I am starting to see some comments come in. And so you can be talking to each other on those blogs as well. And you can use those to get conversations going. So I thought those were interesting. But overall, let's try to get some talking going into our group. The badge channel is working well. Most of you, I just reworked it a little bit. Most of you have applied for the new blogger badge. And remember, anytime you want to interact with the badge, you just have to always include the apply for badge. You always do the mention there. So that's how it works. So let's go talk about the next module. So if you open up the class website and you go to Elements of Literature, in this module, this is the content. Like this is what you have to teach about literature. And I have a couple readings for you. The first looks at just it's common knowledge. These are words that you need to know about literature, and you're going to choose one of these to teach as your performance assessment. Actually, oops. Then you also are reading a piece on how to write a literary analysis. And then Tracy Gardner is going to share an exemplar lesson plan on teaching plot structure. Finally, we have the Common Core State Standards. And we're going to annotate these because your tasks are to complete the readings. And we're also going to annotate the Common Core State Standards, specifically the literature strand. And I'm going to show you how to do that just in a second. Then you're going to write a blog post about the readings. And again, just as we've already kind of talked about that, your performance task is to create a slide deck, like a PowerPoint or Google Slides, that's going to teach one of the elements of literature. You're going to choose a grade level, you're going to identify what elements of literature to be taught, and you're going to create some way of slide deck to teach that, or an animation, like you could use different tools if you know how Plotagon works to write an animation. But if you just want an example, like for example, just go to YouTube, and you could search for plot elements. and something like this. And they use a program called Powtoon. You could just do the same thing in PowerPoint. And here's another example. This is probably done doing PowerPoint. And so that's kind of your performance task. And you can look at some of those examples. So why don't we actually, maybe we'll share, so if you find some good examples, we can share some of those. And I'll make a tutorial on how to record your screen and post that in the tutorial section. In terms of annotating the class website, or the Common Core State Standards, if you click on the link, then you're going to want to make sure you choose our group. So we're in Fall 17. We're going to annotate the literature standards. So we need to go down and find, up here's reading standards for literature K to 5. And we can annotate these. What I want you to identify is, what do students need to be able to know? What do they need to be able to do? And then maybe kind of a book or a text exemplar. So for example, this in kindergarten, with prompting and support, ask and answer questions about key details in a text. So here they need to know what is a key detail. That's knowledge. And then I can go annotate. And then what you do is you can tag that, you don't even need the hashtag, as knowledge. And you post. Another thing you could do, so they need to be support and ask and answer questions. So being able to support, ask, and answer questions. That's a lot of different things. There are many tasks for students to complete. Answer questions, support answers, and then ask questions. And that's kindergarten. So you would tag this as a skill because it's something they need to be able to do. So we'll tag that as skill. But if you had a good text that you wanted to share that could maybe be used for that standard, you could highlight it here. And you could annotate and say, I think the 3 Little Pigs would be a good text because you can ask sequencing questions or cause and effect. And then you can mark that and tag it as exemplar. So that's how you annotate the Common Core State Standards. Something you might want to pay attention though to is what changes between grade levels. So I might annotate going up to here. Here is a difference. Oh, wait a minute. In first grade, they need to do this with no support. In kindergarten, they got support. And we can tag this, we'll call this as a key lever, because it's what changes between this standard and this standard. It's the key lever that moves the difference. So that's how you will annotate those standards. So that's Module 2, looking at the elements of children's literature. And what I would do is begin by looking over those literary terms, then read the piece on writing literary analysis. Then finally annotate the Common Core, well, not finally, actually, this is the next step before the performance task. Annotate the Common Core standards because you're going to need to understand what you want to teach at a specific grade level. I will post another tutorial video later on the week, once people have had some time on the readings, on how to begin the slide deck and how to plan out that unit. But this is you're going to basically be creating a mini lesson on some kind of literary element for a specific grade. So if you choose third grade, for example, you might want to focus on in grade 3, like, well, we were just talking about asking questions, but there they have to refer explicitly to the text for the basis of the answer. So you could determine on that. But if you look at 3rd grade craft and structure, it says determine the meaning of words and phrases as they're used in the text, distinguishing from literal and non-literal language. So right there, boom, you could do a slide deck on literal and non-literal language and giving different examples and talking about different stories. You could talk about, so there's so many different elements because we start to introduce metaphors and similes. When we're in 5th grade, you can do a unit on that. So go through that list, look at examples on YouTube. If you find awesome examples, send them out in the Module 2 channel. All right, folks? That's it, and I will see you as the week goes along. Don't forget, if you feel that you, or even more importantly, somebody else you know qualifies for a new badge, to submit an application. Thanks all. See you soon.